We were looking into non-inverting amplifiers, right? And its importance, like how we use single polarity. So we were discussing that, if in case it's needed to have, if we need to have about 9 volts at each terminal, then we need to give about 2 times that value. So which means it's going to be 18 volts, right? So all that we have seen, and we have seen the importance of, these capacitors and how we make that equal to R4. And when it's made equal to R4, then we try and make C2 as low as possible. Okay, generally we try to make the C3 as low as possible, but then if this is equivalent to R4's impedance, then we try to make C2 lesser. Okay, right. And then we also saw an example as to how these are all designed, and we see that XC3 is equal to R4 by 10 at frequency 1. So this is going to be very minimal if in case I want to make it less. If not, the other case is, XC3 will be equal to R4, and XC2 I will be making it very low. So we solved a problem as well. We saw how we were able to take I2, and we took IB max to be 500 nano, right? And then we multiplied it with 100. So that gave us I2. We solved the value for R1 and VI, similarly R4 and R3. C1 we had a standard formula, right? So we just substituted. C2 we took the case where we are taking RL divided by 10, so the C2, so which means C3 we are making equivalent, okay, equivalent to R4. So you can see that it is multiplied by R4, but then it's not divided by 10 for R4, right? So these minute changes you will have to remember, okay, so that it becomes easy for you while solving your problems, right? So moving on to the next one, so this is about the inverting amplifier. So we have seen the non-inverting configuration so far, right? And a single polarity, so which means we are using a single terminal to give in the non-inverting amplifier configuration. So now we will look into inverting amplifier configuration. So here, as the word suggests, inverting, which means we are actually giving the input, right, but to the negative terminal. And yeah, so we are going to use see the coupling capacitors configuration as usual. So the input coupling capacitor is C1 and the output coupling capacitor is C2. So R2 is very much, R1 and R2 are very much dependent for the gain. Okay, so the circuit of an inverting amplifier using single polarity is shown here. So in this case, the voltage divider R3 and R4, see here also this acts as voltage divider. So which means how much ever voltage that you are giving here, that becomes divided by 2. Let's say we are giving about 5, then this becomes 2.5 here. Okay, so the DC voltage level of an output and the inverting terminal connected via R2. So this is connected via R2. This feedback terminal is also VCC by 2. Why is it VCC by 2? Because this terminal here is VCC by 2. So this will also tend to be in VCC by 2, and the output also will be in VCC by 2. So 3 main things that you have to think of. Number 1 is at the output side, okay, and the inverting terminal, okay, connected via R2 is also VCC. So which means what we are trying to do here is, okay, we are trying to see that the non-inverting input terminal is also VCC by 2, and the output terminal is also VCC by 2, and the output also becomes VCC by 2. Okay, fine. these three things. As always, the voltage divider is designed by first selecting a current I4, which is much larger than the current flowing out of the voltage. So you can see here, okay, the current I4, which is across R4, resistor R4, will be much greater than the current flowing out of the voltage divider IB. So R2 resistor level and R4 resistors, will be completely different. So I4 will be much larger compared to the IB. So I4 is here, okay, and IB is here. So I4 is greater than IB. So we have the formula R3 is equal to R4 is equal to VCC by 2 divided by I4. Okay. So here also I am having VCC by 2 configuration because this is my voltage divider circuit. So one thing that you have to keep in mind here, input side coupling capacitor, output side coupling capacitor, and you're going to do this in inverting configuration, right? So the minus comes on top, plus comes at the bottom, right? And R3 and R4 are acting as voltage divider configuration. Okay, right. So any doubts here, students? Only thing that you have to remember is the circuit configurations, right? So once you have the circuit, then it's easy for you to explain it, right? So any doubts?
No, sir.
So with this, we complete module 2, okay, and we'll be now moving on to module 3. Okay, so just a moment. Okay, so module 3 is all about the applications, right? How we are going to use op-amp for different configurations. So is op-amp really effective in creating different applications? So that is what we are going to look at. So as we have seen the basic definition of an op-amp, op-amp is a very interesting device, okay, where it can not only be used just for the amplification purpose, but then if slight modifications are done, you can use it as an integrator, differentiator, summer, right, as a multiplier. So a number of applications. So we'll be looking into all those, and along with that, we'll also be looking into log and analog amplifiers, how it can be utilized in that configuration. With the help of op-amp, how do we create, or how do we use it as a voltage source, current source, precision rectifiers, limiting circuits, sample and hold circuits. I think sample and hold you would have done in your laboratories. Have you done in your analog electronic circuits? Sample and hold circuits? Yes?
No, sir.
No, not yet. Okay. So sample and hold. Then basically, in the sample and hold, you will be actually holding on to a value for a particular time. Okay, you'll be sampling, you'll be picking up some values, and you'll be holding that values for a particular time. So it's called sample and hold circuits. Then zero crossing detector, as soon as the levels cross zero, then it detects. Then Schmitt triggers, all this. So applications are very interesting, right? So we will just see, today how it is configured as voltage sources. Right. So this slide is very important. Okay. So basically, it has definition of what is a current source, what is a current sink, what is a voltage source, what is a current amplifier, what is a current gain, what is a DC voltmeter, and what are log amplifiers. So it has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 definitions, right? So this is really going to help you, with your Viva in your laboratories. Fine. So let's take it one by one. A voltage source is a circuit that produces a constant output voltage to a given range of loads. Okay. So no matter how much ever load that I have, so it should be able to give me a constant output. Okay. A constant output. So hence it can be termed as a voltage source. So it is like, it is sourcing the voltage. So basically you cannot cut off information from source, right? So this information now is in the form of voltage. So you have a constant output voltage, even though the loads are changed, right? Okay. A current source produces a constant output current. So similarly, just like how we saw for voltage, which gives us constant voltage, current source gives us constant current, constant output current, no matter whatever the load is, however scenario the circuit is put up into. A current sink absorbs a constant current from load. So when I say a sink, which means, as the word suggests, sink, which means moving down to a lower value. So current sink absorbs a constant current from the load. So no matter how much ever current that you are giving, okay, that fully gets absorbed and that is almost nullified. And this kind of circuits are called current sink. So current source, current sink are circuits which go hand in hand. So these absorb a constant current, but from where? From load. Okay. So the next one, current amplifiers increase an input current by a given amount and apply it to the load. So it's pretty simple, right? Amplifiers, you say you're giving a certain amount of current, and with the help of op-amp I can actually use it as an amplifier, and at the output side I'm going to get the amplified version of input, right? So so A0, okay, or AOL, okay, open loop into VI, or your input current II, right? So it is an amplified version. Okay, so it increases an input current level which is given by the current gain. Okay. The current gain may be dependent upon the load resistance or may be independent of load resistance. So I can make my current gain in such a way that it is dependent or independent on the load. So basically this gain is a factor which depends on the op-amp, right? What kind of op-amp, what kind of the resistance that I'm using in the feedback. If I'm using a coupling capacitor, then how am I designing these coupling capacitors? As we have seen, the capacitor values can be decreased if I have a very large resistance, right? So I can design how the current gain is going to be. A DC voltmeter, I think all of you have used it, right, in the form of multimeter, right, wherein you can measure currents, you can measure voltages, you can check for the continuity in a circuit by using beep, right? So a DC voltmeter can be constructed using a voltage to current converter. So voltage to current converter, and a current source and DC voltmeter may be used as a linear ohmmeter. So we can also measure the resistance values. So basically understand that the DC voltmeter can be constructed using voltage to current converter. So this is important here. Voltage to current converter. and a current source and DC voltmeter may be used as linear ohmmeter. So basically there's going to be a conversion between voltage to current. Okay, fine. So the next one is log amplifiers. So what are these log amplifiers? You would have seen this logarithmic scales, right? Log charts. Just like how we have the normal graph sheets, you will have log graph sheets as well, log charts. So here, you can see that it's applying a logarithmic function to a value, right? So log amplifiers produce an output with a logarithmic relation to the input. So it's just like, if my input is 2, then log 2 gives me some value. So it's adding the logarithmic function to the input. Okay. So any doubts here, students? Any doubts here? Voltage source will have a constant voltage irrespective of how your loads are changing. Similarly, the same thing applies for current source. The current sink will actually take up or absorb all the current, and amplifiers increases the level of currents. Current gain can be designed using op-amp, right? The gain factor. Then DC voltmeter, there is going to be a conversion between voltage to current conversion. So it's also called VTC, voltage to current converter. And in log amplifiers, we're going to see the relationship between input and output, and they are related logarithmically, right? So can we proceed, students? Any doubts here for the introduction?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So this is, giving us an entire idea as to what all we'll be seeing in the unit. Okay, right. So now, we'll be looking at exclusively voltage sources. As I mentioned, what is a voltage source? It can have a constant voltage at the output, at the load, irrespective of how the load is. Even though the loads are changed, we can have constant voltages. Fine. So the voltage source is shown in figure A. So let us concentrate on the first figure. Okay, and then we will move on to the next one. Right, so we will look into this. So the voltage source shown in figure A consists of a voltage divider. So can you tell me which is a voltage divider here? Pretty simple, right? R1 and R2. And an op-amp voltage follower. It's called an op-amp voltage follower because whatever is at the output, okay, the output follows the input. The voltage divider R1 and R2 is connected across the positive and negative power supply. So you can see that at one end of R1 is plus VCC and at the other end of R2 is minus VEE. Okay, so the reason why we use this is so that we can have a positive impact. Okay, we can have a positive impact. So we will look into that. So that the input voltage VI to the op-amp measured with respect to ground may be positive or negative quantity. So if in case I want a negative quantity, okay, then I'll be taking it with respect to minus VEE. Okay, minus VEE. Right. So the output voltage applied to load resistor RL is V0 is equal to VI. Why is it equal? Because we have seen that it is a voltage follower. Okay, so the output V0 is equal to VI. So whatever is at my input, I'm going to see the same thing at my output. In fact, this is one of the property of an op-amp, of an ideal op-amp. And the only op-amp function is to offer a much lower output resistance. So we have seen infinite input impedance and almost zero output impedance than presented by the voltage divider. So at the output side, it should make sure that there is almost, very low output resistance, so that the currents can flow out. Okay. Right. Now let's focus on figure B. Okay, this figure here. So we have made slight changes here. Can you tell me what are the changes between figure A and figure B? R1 is there, R2 is there, op-amp is there, load resistance is there, but then I've brought in a new device. What is it? What is that new device? Yes. What is the new device?
So transistor.
Yes. So what kind of transistor are we looking at here? Is it a MOSFET or is it a BJT? MOSFET, I think all of you have studied in your digital electronics, metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. BJTs you have studied in AECs, right? Sorry, come again. Yeah. So we are, yes. Tell me.
BJT, sir.
Yeah, correct. So we are looking at BJTs here. Okay. So BJTs, as we all know, it has emitter, base, and collector. So we will see how these are connected. Now, as I was telling you before, I have plus VCC and it is taken with respect to ground. So if I have this kind of configuration, plus VCC here, okay, and okay, I have plus VCC here and I have ground here. Now, if I reverse this configuration, which means let the ground be here as usual. If I replace plus VCC with minus VE, then it's going to have a negative voltage. But here, if I'm giving plus VCC, then it's going to be a positive voltage. So let us look into it step by step. So figure B shows a voltage source with BJT connected to the output of op-amp. Because the maximum output current for most op-amps is approximately 25 milliamps. So I want you to make note of this. So 25 milliamps is actually referring to the maximum output that a BJT can actually render us. Okay, 25 milliamps. The BJT is necessary for higher load current levels. Now, one thing you should understand, BJT is very good in carrying loads. Okay, for loads or carrying currents, this BJT is a very important device. Even MOSFETs cannot do that. MOSFETs are good at switching, okay, changing values from 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. But then BJTs are very good carriers. So when I say very good carriers, it means it carries currents at a much better way than MOSFETs do. The maximum load current is now the maximum emitter current, right? So we have this IE, which is emitter current across this transistor, right? Bipolar junction transistor, which is named as Q1. Okay, fine. The transistor and the op-amp has to supply much smaller BJT base current. So the op-amp, is actually the output is connected to the base of this transistor. So base is connected here, emitter we have it here, and the collector is actually connected to one end of the resistor R1 and plus VCC. So that's the supply. With the inverting input terminal, okay, with the inverting input terminal of op-amp connected to the transistor emitter. So you can see that here, right? You have this minus terminal, right? So this minus terminal, which is connected here, right? It is connected here. Okay. Is maintained at the same voltage level V2. Okay. So since whatever potential is maintained at this plus, the same thing is maintained here at the minus. So which means if 5 volts are here, even here you can expect 5 volts. Okay. In this particular circuit, the voltage divider is connected from plus VCC to ground. Now this is important, right? Students, please make note. Why are we doing this plus VCC to ground connection? So that the circuit is a positive voltage source. So if I want to make my circuit a positive voltage source, I will connect this collector to plus VCC. If not, then what I will do, I will connect it to minus VEE. Okay, so that's what I have even mentioned here in my next point. Negative voltage source can be constructed by using ground and VEE as supply. So if in case I change from VCC to VEE, then it becomes a negative voltage source. Any doubts here, students?
No doubt.
Yeah. So the same circuit, we're taking the help of BJT so that it can help us, handle the load properly. Okay. So there's nothing better than BJT which can handle a load. Okay. Now we are going to see a small change. Okay. Now we had seen R1, R2, but then here now we are going to see a new device added. Can someone tell me what is this device here? This D1, you have used it in your practicals probably. You even learned it in your first year. What is this D1? Is it something new to all of you? Right. So it's a Zener diode. Okay. Fine. So instead of using a voltage divider to provide the reference voltage, a Zener diode can be employed. So we can also use a Zener diode here instead of using another resistor. The voltage divider output in the previous figure is stable. So whatever the outputs that we saw using R1, R2, and we had connected a BJT and an op-amp. So those outputs were stable. It's not that it's not stable, but then we are trying to introduce Zener instead of a resistor here, and we will see what is its impact. Remains constant. Okay. Only if the supply voltage remains constant. So if the supply voltage changes here, then it's going to impact R2. We have seen previously R2. So, but Zener diode, there's no effect of change in voltages, right? So that is the advantage of having the Zener diode. So if I have a Zener diode and my supply voltages are fluctuating, it's fine. I will still have a stable output. But the previous, with the previous circuit, having R1 and R2, I should have a stable supply to have a stable output. Okay. So while the Zener diode voltage is largely independent of variations in supply voltage. So this is a very excellent property of Zener diode, right? So which makes us to have a constant output. So the Zener diode voltage is largely independent of any variations in supply voltage. Now this is an important thing because a non-inverting amplifier is used. Okay, a non-inverting amplifier is used. Instead of a voltage follower, the output voltage for the circuit is going to be V0 is equal to whatever is the voltage at the Zener diode, represented as Vz, into R2 plus R3. So R2, I have it here, R2 plus R3 divided by R3. Okay, so you can see that here, R2 and R3 are actually forming the voltage divider concept. So this R3, the voltage across R3 is going to be Vz, which is going to be the same thing across the diode, the Zener voltage. So why are we using the Zener diode? So that even if my supply voltages are not constant, if it's varying, my outputs are still going to be constant. But then if I use the resistor, then that's not the case, right? So here in this B figure, you can see there is a potentiometer. Okay, you can change it. You can either connect it to R3, R4, or R2. So we will see how this exactly works. Okay. Now concentrate on this figure here, which is figure B. So as I was mentioning, this is a potentiometer connected, right? A potentiometer. So instead of having just a normal soldered connection, if in case I have a potentiometer where I can have three different resistances here, R2, R4, and R3. So how is it going to impact? Okay, just like how we saw, keeping a coupling capacitor and how it was made in parallel with the resistor R2, which was in feedback loop, right? So the same impact can be seen here, an adjustable resistance. So figure shows a potentiometer for adjusting the output voltage. So ultimately I can adjust or vary my output voltage, just like how we had set the cutoff frequency. Remember, for cutoff frequency we had used a capacitor, right? So in the same fashion we are using a potentiometer here for changing the values of output voltages. So the design of voltage source circuit in figure B involves selecting a suitable BJT. So again, here I need to have a proper BJT. Okay. Then calculating the voltage divider resistors in the usual way. Okay. So R2, R3 can be calculated usually with our usual manual calculations. To use a Zener diode as reference voltage, the Zener voltage is usually selected as around half of the required output voltage. So that's a condition here. What should be my Zener voltage? My Zener voltage should be, say, for example, I want my output voltage to be 5. So my Zener voltage Vz should be selected in such a way that it should be 2.5. Okay, important point, make note. Usually selected around half of the required output voltage. Okay. The Zener diode current is normally selected at the test current specified by the device manufacturer. So the values of Zener diode is going to be about 20 milliamps, right? About 20 milliamps. So, better we keep this range in mind while designing the circuit. So the resistance R1. So how do I calculate this resistance R1? So the resistance R1 is calculated as VCC minus VZ. So VCC probably, we are giving about 9 volts or 18 volts. Okay, depends on our design, minus half of output, that is VZ. Okay, VCC minus VZ divided by IZ. So the current which is actually passing through the diode, and that can be substituted as 20 milliamps. Okay, fine. The non-inverting amplifier is designed for the required voltage gain. So with this arrangement, with this formula in mind, we can actually arrange or we can design a voltage source with the help of Zener diode. Just keep these points in mind and circuit design is going to be easy. So keeping all this in mind, okay, now we will try and design or we'll see an example as to how we are going to design with the help of formulas as well. Okay, so keep your calculators, pen, and your notebooks handy so that we will work out this problem. So design the voltage source. So we have to design a voltage source which was shown in the previous figure. So I've just brought that figure here, the same figure with Zener diode and BJT op-amp and having the potentiometer connection, having R1, R2, and R3, right? So to provide output voltage, so which means V naught becomes 9 volts. I want 9 volts, so which means half of that is 4.5. So VZ is going to be about 4.5, right? Okay. To a 500 ohm load, so I know that my RL is going to be 500. The available supply is plus 12 volts, right? So as I mentioned, 12, sometimes, yeah. So 12 is standard. And the potentiometer is to be included to adjust approximately plus or minus 10% tolerance in Zener diode voltage. So yeah, so plus 10 minus 10. So this is going to be the range of the potentiometer. Fine. So let us calculate VZ. We plainly know that VZ is going to be half of the output voltage. So 9 volts divided by 2, we are going to get about 4.5, right? So we don't have to calculate that. So this is fine. So we are going to use about 4.3 volts. Okay. So we'll be using the model IN749. Next, how do I calculate R1? R1 is equal to VCC minus VZ divided by IZ. So we have seen this formula, isn't it? So 12 minus 4.3 divided by IZ. Okay. IZ, how did I get this 20 milliamps, by the way, students? It's not mentioned even in the question, 20 milliamps, but how did I arrive at that? Yeah.
Should be half of the output voltage.
Sorry, come again. No, that is for VZ. VZ, we are taking half of, or the output voltage, but IZ, how are we getting 20 milliamps? Anyone to answer that? Kevin, how is IZ 20 milliamps? So as we have seen previously, right? So IZ is going to be a standard value, okay, for Zener, and we are going to use this pre-defined values in the specification sheets. So someone help me in calculating 12 minus 4.3 divided by 20. How much are we getting? Is the value correct? 12 minus 4.3 should be 7.7 divided by 20. Are we getting 385?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So as we have seen, we use a standard value, right? So instead of 385, we use the closest standard value, generally a little higher or lower. So whichever is very close to the standard value, we use it. So 385, so I'm going to use a 390 standard value. So this calculation is also fine. Now select I2. we all know that I2 is much greater than IB max. So as usual, I'm going to have it 100 times IB max. We have from the specification sheet, and we have also seen that multiplying 500 nano with 100, it actually gives us 50 microamps. So this is also fine. Now, when VZ is 10% higher, okay, why are we taking that tolerance? Is because it's mentioned here, right? The Zener voltage, 10% tolerance to the Zener voltage. So potentiometer, should be included, and it's approximately about 10%. You can take the value of 10% of Zener voltage. So VZ here we have about 4.3, right? So when VZ is 10% high, the potentiometer moving contact has to be set to the top of R4. Okay, so you can probably, let me just go back to the previous one. R4, yeah. So this point that you are seeing will actually come to the top of R4. So what they're trying to say here is, okay, see, initially it was connected here, right? So later, it will be connected to the top of R4. So it is going to vary. Okay, it's going to vary. Okay. This is good. This is good. This is good. Fine. So 10% higher, okay, so which means the contact will be moving to the top of R4 to give V0 is equal to 9 volts. And when VZ is 10% low, the moving contact must be set to the bottom of R4. So R4 here is basically, the potentiometer where, the range, top of R4 to the bottom. So, R4 basically decides the value of your potentiometer. Now let us take, let us calculate the value of R2. Okay, so R2 here, R2 is equal to V0 minus VZ plus 10%. So I'm going to increase, okay, plus 10%, the higher value. Okay, so when I say high, then it's going to be at the top of R4, right, divided by I2. So V0 I have 9, and VZ, of course, I have 4.3, and 10% of that divided by I2. Okay, so I2 I have got it here, multiplying 100 with 500 nanoamps, right? So are we getting 85.4 kilo? So how do we calculate this? Take 10% of 4.3. Okay, then you add it with 4.3. So 9 minus answer. Okay, then that one you're going to divide by 50 micro. Yes, are we getting? Follow the procedure which I told. Then only you will get the values. If not, then you wouldn't. So 10% here is actually for 4.3, right? So it's going to be 0.43. You're going to add 0.43 with this 4.3, and you will get around 4.7, 4.8 something. So 9 minus that value, yeah, 4.73 you'll be getting for this. So 9 minus 4.73, you get a value, that value divided by 50 microamps. Are we getting 85.4? Someone working it out? Yes, are we getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you for responding. Okay. So now I will calculate R3. Okay. So R3 is equal to VZ minus 10%. So here I've taken plus 10 and here minus 10 divided by I2. So similarly, 4.3 minus 10%. Okay. And so this is going to be 4.3 minus 0.43 divided by 50 micro. So we should be getting approximately about 77.4. So if we do not want to use just 68, of course, there's a lot of difference here. So we can use another 10K in series. Now R4, right? How do I calculate R4? So R4 is going to be 20% of VZ, okay, divided by I2. So this is a standard, the potentiometer, right? Going from the top to the bottom. So 20% of 4.3, right? So this 4.3 is nothing but the VZ, okay, VZ value and I2. I2 we have calculated here. So we should be getting about 17.8. So we will be using the range, 20 kilo ohm potentiometer. Remember, going from the top of R4 to the bottom of R4. So this plus or minus 10%. So this is actually referring to about 20 kilo ohm potentiometer. So you can have this resistance added or excluded with the help of potentiometer. Now the load, okay, load V0 by RL. V0 we have already seen that it's about 9 volts, which is given in the question, 9 divided by, and my RL is 500. Okay, so we should be getting about 18 milliamps. Okay, so for BJT, the IE max, the collector, the emitter current, the maximum value should be greater than 18 milliamps, and BCE max should be greater than 12 volts. So between the collector and the emitter, the voltage between the collector and emitter of this transistor should be greater than 12 volts, and BJT IE max would be greater than 18 milliamps. So the final load current. Right. So ultimately, you should understand how to utilize the formula, what is asked, okay, how to calculate VZ, how to calculate R1, R2, R3, R4, how much of potentiometer to be used. If all this is kept in mind, then it becomes easy for us to solve the problem. Okay, so tomorrow we will in our next class, next lecture, we will be looking into the next concept, which is going to be current sources. After that, we'll be looking into integrators and differentiators.